Hey peeps out there. Today we're going to take a look at a deal here, which is a digital marketing and web design agency based in New York City. If you followed this channel, you know I like talking a lot about online business acquisitions. I've both started, acquired, and also sold online businesses. I'm always looking to acquire good online businesses, and I prefer acquiring over starting online businesses. So one of the things I wanted to do is bring on a friend of mine here to talk about these deals. And in this case, I've got my friend Chris, who has owned a financial advisory marketing firm. Is that correct, Chris?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So he's owned a marketing firm for financial advisors for several years, and I've seen him grow that and do very well with it. And I know he's looking to acquire another agency. So figured I'd bring him on here and we would chat it out on a deal. We just did an episode on a deal that was an e-commerce business that I was interested in. We've got one that he's going to share with us here, and we are going to talk about it. So Chris, I will let you take it from here.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Corey. Thanks for having me on the channel here today. So one of the listings that I'm looking at here is a digital marketing agency that's based in New York, as you mentioned. They are mainly focused on web design. They also do some PPC and email and social media. Sounds like CRM and SEO. So they appear to be somewhat of a full service agency. Some of the highlights or things that they're highlighting here, they're asking $6 million for it, revenue of 4.1 million and an EBITDA of 750,000. And the business is 20 years old, so they're looking for an 8x multiple on the agency, which right now in this current market is quite high, especially considering the EBITDA on it. It's less than $2 million in EBITDA, so agencies right now, at least the ones that we are evaluating, are not fetching such a high multiple. Probably what would be more realistic on this is somewhere around maybe a 3 or a 4x multiple, really. But who knows? We may learn a little bit more about this if we kind of inquire about it. According to the listing here, it says 3/4 of their clients are B2B companies, so that's a plus. Because if you're working with B2B companies, then they tend to want to spend money because they want to make money, which is a great thing. Says it includes Fortune 500 companies across a range of industries, so it appears to be a bit diversified. A large proportion of the client contracts are retained, which is great. So that means that there's some MRR there, so we're not having to go out and try to find new clients all the time. So all of those things are definitely a plus. One thing that kind of sticks out to me on this particular one is it says that the experienced hires or the people that they have working there appear to be or have full autonomy, but the CEO and the VP of operations wants to stay on board. Which is kind of interesting because if you're looking to, sell this, but you want to stay on board, that kind of leads me to that, maybe they're kind of stuck with growing this thing and they need somebody else that can come in and, basically kind of help fill the gaps or take them to another level that, that they're currently not at. How do you feel about that, Corey?
Yeah, so I mean, just read right here from the listing, the CEO is looking to stay, and so is the VP of operations. So I guess that kind of, makes us ask the question, is the CEO and the VP of operations, are they the owners essentially of this business that are selling this or not? Because if they are, they're selling it, but they want to stay on. Well, I mean, number one, that's just kind of puts like a catch-22, right? Scenario up. You're like, well, why do they want to sell it if they're going to stay on with the business? And then number two, it's just kind of a known fact out there that prior owners do not work well with new owners. Even the SBA knows this. And I don't know if you know this, but if you take out an SBA loan, they will not let you employ the prior owner for longer than a year. You cannot have an employment contract with the owner for longer than with the prior owner for longer than a year. And I believe it can also not be more support than 1 year. If you acquire a business, you cannot have any commitment of more than 1 year with the prior owner. And I think that not the reason that I think, but what I've been told from a couple lenders in discussions with them is they're like, look, relationships between new owners and sellers of businesses just do not work out in the long term, right? They might they might be all peachy and fuzzy for a few months after the seller gets his chunk of change. The new owner is, just kind of trying to get his hands on the steering wheel, so to say, but eventually they do tend to butt heads. So that's something that I would really want to uncover about this business here, is who is the CEO and who is the VP of operations.
Yeah, that is a good point. With any kind of business venture, the new person who's going to come in, they're going to have their own ideas on what they want to do with it. And, if the CEO is the actual owner, or maybe, VP of operations, may have some equity in the business, there's very much likely to be some kind of clash in creative ideas on what they may want to do with the business. So I can definitely see why the SBA would put that rule in place. To kind of further kind of look at this, looking at the revenue and the EBITDA on this one, there has been some consistent growth year over year. So they've provided us with at least the last 4 years
it's nice to see that
of financials. Yeah. So, I mean, this is definitely helpful to at least see that, hey, from 2019 up until the end of 2022, that they have had some growth, which is great. So that's definitely a good point. Again, they did mention the revenue sources. So about 50% is retained. The other 50% is project based. So that kind of helps with cash flow, knowing that, for those retained sources of revenue, you have some monthly recurring revenue that's coming in on those. And then they give a breakdown on the
they got all kinds
service.
of breakdowns in here.
Yeah. So digital and branding strategy, that's about 40%. That's probably more project-based stuff. Development is 35%, and digital marketing is 25%. I'm going to assume that digital marketing piece is probably more talking about PPC, email, services that they're delivering to clients every month. So not too bad there. Now, there's a bit of a conflict in what they have here. They have client profile B2B at 100%, but then up here, they say 3/4 of their clients are B2B companies. So one of these numbers is not right. So it's either 75% or it's either 100%.
Yeah, I see that.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, not sure which one of these numbers is correct.
Yeah, but, and then in the industries served, they've got 55% at business services, and then 30 manufacturing, 10 construction, 5% media, 5% e-commerce. So, when I'm thinking business services here, I'm thinking of a company like Intuit or FreshBooks or Paychex, those types of companies that are providing kind of office admin type of services to businesses. Is that what you would kind of feel it out as?
I'm thinking about the same thing too. I mean, they did mention that a lot of their clients are Fortune 500 companies, so there are probably some fairly large industries or verticals that they're in, and yeah, business services, would definitely some of those companies that you mentioned would definitely fall in that particular category. I see, e-commerce is a very small portion of it, 5%, so definitely tells me that they're not doing probably a lot of social media, like direct to consumer type of advertising and such. If it is B2B, they're probably, mainly probably doing a lot of lead gen maybe for their particular clients potentially. But yeah, manufacturing and business services, I mean, those are not necessarily sexy verticals, but hey, if it's making the money, then it's making the money. So nothing too bad there.
On that note, what do you think about their kind of service offering and their client base in context of the revenue? And I guess I'll just say what I'm kind of thinking. And it just seems like they are all over the place for only $4 million in revenue. I mean, is that a way of looking at it? Obviously it is a way of looking at it, but is it the right way of looking at it? Or, how do you feel about that as somebody that's in a marketing niche agency?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great thing to kind of think about. What I would be curious or would want to know more about in this particular one is, of these services that they're offering, is there one that generates the bulk of the revenue? And then how proficient are they with delivering that particular service? Because if they're really good at it, I would look to come in and like double down on that, right? And maybe kind of get rid of some of these others. Like for example, if their client mix down here, if they only have 5% e-commerce, 5% media, and 10% construction, like how many resources are we dedicating to this on a monthly basis to serve these clients?
Yeah.
Versus these up here. And if we can take people who may be working with these clients and put them up here, then hey, maybe we can, generate
Yeah.
more revenue
This might be
and
a
more.
scenario where they've got the e-commerce clients, but it's like every time the e-commerce clients call, they just cringe. They're like, oh, we got to deal with this client again.
Potentially. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would definitely be looking at trying to figure out how we can, come in and kind of optimize things. I mean, being that I run a niche agency, I'm kind of biased to it.
Yeah.
And I know, historically, agencies tend to have, fairly small profit margins. So anything that you can do to come in here and increase the profit margins would definitely be ideal. They have a few more details down here. So experience, founded in 1998, co-founder, CEO, and VP are looking to stay with the company.
Well, that answers
Strong
one
financial
question.
performance. Yeah. Yearly revenue growth with 20% EBITDA margin. So 20% is about average what you see for agencies. Now, just for reference, in my agency, my profit margins are about 65 to 70%. And that's
Wow.
because I'm in a specific niche.
Yeah.
So much higher profit margins than what they're than what they're doing here. They are located in an expensive city, so I'm wondering how many of these full-time employees, like, are they coming to the office? They're in New York, right? Because we know
Yeah.
real estate
The
is
New
high.
York City thing almost seems kind of arbitrary to me. Like, is this just like a virtual office in New York City, right? Are they renting one of those $200 a month mailbox type of deals? Because I think I saw the employee count up there. It said like 20 or 22 of them, which they don't. I mean, that they don't have that. They just 22 full-time employees with further 20 plus in outsourced roles. I mean, at that revenue number, they don't have the revenue to sustain 22 full-time employees in New York City at the pay that it's going to take. So that means that there's certainly not all of them coming into the office in New York City. They're not all living in New York City.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
so. We can almost pretty much bet that the 20 plus outsourced, these are definitely
of course. Yeah.
virtual employees and probably contractors. They may not pay them all the time. It may be like project based stuff that they're
Yep.
currently doing. But yeah, these 22 FTEs, I'd definitely be interested in how many of these people are actually coming to the office, if any, how many may be virtual. Because one of the things you could potentially do is, if they aren't 100% virtual, you could definitely reduce some expenses by not paying office rent and
Yeah.
all the things that kind of go along with that to help increase the margins. But overall, overall, it doesn't seem to be such a bad listing in itself. To kind of talk about some of the things that I don't necessarily like about this, I definitely don't like this 8x multiple. Uh, I don't know anybody who's going to pay 8x in this current market. For those people who may not
Yeah,
be in
it's
the
certainly
marketing.
not me.
Yeah, no, this right now, a lot of tech companies are laying off people, marketing budgets are being cut. So,
Yeah.
a lot of these Fortune 500 companies, they're looking for ways to cut expenses. So, going in and buying an agency at 8x right now is just really, really crazy. They would really need to try to cut that in half to really
Yeah. I
get
mean, I
some.
would say even 4x would be on the aggressive side of things.
Definitely so. Four would be more than what I would be willing to do, at least based off the information that we're seeing here. Three would be definitely more comfortable. The revenue is good, but again, profit margins are lower. So anything that we can do to increase profit margins would make the deal a lot better, but definitely not 8x for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just, low profit margins because I've owned businesses in the home service space with lower profit margins than 20%. And it's not so much that that's a bad thing, but it's really the staying power, I think, of the business. And here you've got $4 million and 750K in EBITDA, right? It's not a small business. I mean, it is technically a small business. I know that, but it's not like a tiny business, but it's also not huge. And you don't have really any fixed assets behind that. And that said, I think marketing is something that is probably the most discretionary of B2B services, right? When companies want to start making cuts, marketing is usually where they start going to chop things. And, as we've been in a bull market, that's also the place where there's a lot of bloat and where they just, let things run away. It's like, business is good. Yes, we're paying this marketing agency and maybe we don't like what they're doing for us. Maybe we don't think it's necessary. Maybe we think we could reduce it, but we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to cross this bridge because, we're making money and everything's good. But as the tides kind of turn in the economy, I think a lot of businesses are going to look to that marketing budget as one of the first things they're going to cut. And that kind of gives an agency a real headwind going forward.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one thing to consider, and I think one of the reasons why, or at least one of the things that I would look for in this particular business, kind of going back to figuring out what services that they offer and which clients are the best ones, is with any business you want to make yourself sticky. So
Yes.
even if they would cut marketing, if the marketing that we're doing for clients is the thing that's generating the bulk or the majority of the revenue for them, then that would make it more difficult for them to say, hey, we're not going to pay you guys this month because, we just don't want to. But if we're generating leads for them, or we can directly show that the work that we're doing is contributing to their top line or bottom line, then they're going to think twice about that. So anything that you can do to make yourself more sticky will definitely help.
And one of the things you said there just kind of jumped out, and that was leads, right? But this business is saying 40% on digital and branding strategy. And myself as a marketer, and for those of you guys that don't know, I do own a lead generation business. When I see digital and branding strategy, I'm thinking, all right, here goes all the fluffy stuff, right? Like here's all the social media stuff. And that's 40% of this business's revenue.
Oh yeah, definitely a good point there. Yeah, that's definitely the more flashy stuff, the things that make you feel good. Oh, I love the website. It looks awesome. But I'm like, well, how many clients are we really converting because the website looks super duper awesome versus us like looking at conversion rates and making sure people are actually buying and continuing to buy. So definitely a good point there. So just looking at this, they may not be as sticky as they probably would like at this particular moment.
So on that note, do we like this deal or do we not like this deal?
Overall, I would give it about a 50-50 on liking it or disliking it.
It's like a thumb sideways.
It's intriguing, definitely, because of the revenue is there. I don't like the 8x multiple. I would be interested in learning more, especially finding out exactly what the CEO and the VP of operations are looking to do if they stay on. That would be something that would kind of make me, think twice.
That's a weird dynamic there.
Yeah, definitely so. But revenue is good. EBITDA is not bad, could be better. But I think there's probably some better deals to be had out there, especially with a much lower multiple.
Yeah. So I actually keep a spreadsheet for businesses that I think are good businesses, but are overpriced. And I add them on my spreadsheet and I'll basically circle back to them in 3 months. So I put the date on there and every couple of weeks I'll go through it and look at the old ones and see if they're still for sale. But I don't even think this would make my shortlist spreadsheet. Just at that 8x multiple, the seller really has to come down so much to get into realistic territory. Then we've got the stickiness thing with the branding. I mean, I think we've got clients that are just kind of all over the place. It seems like different industries. And then the CEO, if he's looking to stay on, but he wants to sell it, to me, I would say that's kind of like a red flag, or maybe not even a red flag, but it's just like he just wants to take the quick check of $6 million and still do the business. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, the math just isn't adding up there on the intangibles. So I would be giving this one a pass.
I would say that's probably a very good point on this one.
Yeah, let's find a digital agency that's at like 3x multiple, and then let's go all in on that one.
Yeah, definitely a much
Yeah.
better strategy.
Cool. Well, this one made for some good discussion here on what we like and what we don't like on digital agencies. On that note, I think it's time to call it a wrap, unless you got anything else to add, Chris.
No, I don't. Nothing else to add on this one.
Cool. All right, guys. Hey, you know the drill. If you found this video helpful and insightful, be sure to do me a sweet one. Smash the like button. Do yourself a sweet one. Hit the subscribe button to get all my insight into online businesses. We're signing off.